Hello everybody, Big Beardy back again. Hope you're all doing good. And today we're talking about, or going to discuss, a question that I get asked all the time. And it goes something like this. Someone will say to me, I've got a short wheelbase, long wheelbase, whatever it may be. I live in this area. How busy is it on the CX or in general? And the short answer is, I don't know. I don't know which certain areas are busy for certain bands. You just don't have that sort of information to hand, and you would have to go and research it in depth to actually figure it out. So, but what I do know is what areas are generally busy. So we're going to break down each area and which places are busy, not so busy, and quiet. So, let's get into it. First of all, we're going to start with the busiest areas in the country, where you will find the most work. And when I talk about this is during the good times. Obviously, at the moment, we're in the lockdown, it's all messed up. But during the good times, as I like to call them now, these areas are generally very busy. So, first of all, there are three main areas which you will find the most work. First one is London. London is always busy. Now, when an area is busy, what I mean by that is, if an area is busy, it's busy for all vehicles. If it's quiet for all vehicles. You might think, oh, this area might be better for long wheelbases or small vans, but generally, when an area is busy, it's busy for everything. There are some slight exceptions to the rule, but like, for instance, central London, I always think there's a lot of small van work comes out of it. But when I'm talking about this, just know it's a general thing. So, London, loads of work. Birmingham and that area, because you've got, Leicester and all that area around there, very busy. Manchester, Liverpool, that area, very busy. These three are probably the biggest areas for work, or just volume of work. Now, they do have some caveats. For instance, London is very busy, but the work seems to go a lot cheaper than anywhere else in the country. That's from my experience. But it is a very busy area. Birmingham, second biggest city in the country, so you're expecting it to be very busy. But it also has that added fact that you've got Leicester near it, you've got Rugby, which is a big sort of industrial hub there, Coventry, and various other little places around there, which also make it extremely busy. And then Manchester, Liverpool, two big cities. Manchester just seems to have a load of work that comes out of it, and it goes out for a very good price. So, we've got these three big areas. These are your three main areas where you're going to get work from. Next, the next busiest areas are what I would like to call sort of cluster cities. These are areas where there's not one major big hub, big city, but there's two or three very close to each other, which they sort of work off each other. Great example is sort of the Huddersfield, Sheffield, Leeds area. You've got a couple of little sort of, not cities, but big towns that also contribute to that. That's a very good area for work. Down south, you've got Southampton, Eastleigh, Portsmouth, Bournemouth, that area. That's not quite as busy, but you do get some good work out of them. Because you've got sort of three places next to each other, they all sort of pass work among each other, and it's a good area to get work. Then you've got places like Newcastle and Sunderland and Middlesbrough. Not as much work comes out of there as you would think. You would think three cities next to each other. These are a bit weird, but there isn't actually a huge amount of work that comes out of there. So that's slightly lower down the list, but it's three cities. They're close to each other. There's going to be more work there than in the middle of nowhere. Next up, you have the sort of individual cities. These are cities that sit on their own. There is an exception to this, and I know it very well, but they sit on their own. They haven't got really any cities near them, but they get good work. Because they are cities, it's better than being in the middle of nowhere. So, for instance, Bristol. I always do great out of Bristol. I don't know why, but Bristol's a very good city. I think it's because Cardiff is just over the border. So you'll always do well out of Bristol. Then you have, like, Exeter. Not a huge, these places don't get as much work as like 2-3 cities next to each other, but it's a city. It's going to get work out of it. I'm assuming Exeter City. I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, so single cities are obviously better than being in the middle of nowhere. The exception is, of course, Norwich. Norwich has very little coming out of it. There are actually towns and areas that have more that come out of Norwich, but it's still a city. It's still, if you're in the middle of nowhere, the tip is, if you're in the middle of nowhere, go towards the city. And people will think, well, you've got to think where you live and look up the cities that are around you and think, am I in a good position here? If not, move toward the cities. I'll give you an example in a minute. So, there you have it. To start, the three big places, obviously London, Birmingham, Manchester. Then you have, obviously, the places around Birmingham, that Leicester area also comes into that. Then you have sort of the Leeds area, which has loads of work, and then sort of Southampton, Bournemouth, Newcastle and Sunderland, and then you have the little individual cities. I actually think Bristol probably gets more work out of it than the Newcastle area, which is strange, but that's a personal opinion of mine. Now, places that don't get a lot of work out of them, Cardiff. Cardiff's a bit like Norwich. You would think there's a load of work, but actually, if you're in that area, I always go across the bridge to Bristol because there's more work coming out of it. Then you have, you also have then big towns. Big towns can actually be more profitable than cities. So Milton Keynes, once again, I don't know if Milton Keynes counts as a city. Someone please correct me on that. But Milton Keynes, very good area to get work out of. That corridor, sort of, if you look at London and you draw a line from London to Manchester and you draw put sort of a 30-40 mile radius and go up like that towards that corridor, the M1 corridor I suppose it is, great for work, very good for work. If you go right of the Peak District, Leeds in that area, left of the Peak District, Birmingham, Manchester, so that is a very good area for work. If you're out of that corridor, it starts drifting off very quickly. So some people have asked me, Peterborough, Hull, these areas, they're single cities, really. They're sort of on their own. So you do get good work, but not as much as that corridor gets. Now, next up, after the cities, people have asked me, they live in towns in the middle of nowhere, what's the best sort of strategy? So, the example I'm going to use is Yeovil. Anyone who knows Yeovil, Yeovil is about an hour and 20 minutes south of Bristol. It's about an hour away from Exeter, and it's about an hour away from Bournemouth, and it's right in the middle of that area. Nothing else around it on its own. Even there you can do well. There is good work that comes out of Yeovil. Personally though, I would drive myself up to Bristol because I know that's going to have more work than the other two places. So, it's a big town. I'll put a little picture here so you can see where it sort of falls. You can sort of see. It's like, if you land there, it's like, is there good work? What I would do in a place like, if I got to Yeovil at 9 o'clock in the morning, I would stay there for an hour or so, hope I land a job, and if I hadn't, I would start moving north towards Bristol because you start hitting that good area. And everywhere else is very quiet. Doesn't mean you won't find work. So, Norfolk, Suffolk. Suffolk's not too bad because you're a little bit closer to London. But Norfolk, very quiet. Cornwall, very quiet. The best place you're going to get work is Exeter. And unfortunately, if you're down in Truro or somewhere, that's a long drive to Exeter. The northeast, like I said, you've got Newcastle, Sunderland, that, but apart from that, very little. Wales, not a lot comes out of Wales, unfortunately. You do get a bit out of Cardiff, a little bit out of Swansea, that south coast of Wales, but not a huge amount. Like I said, if I'm ever in Cardiff, I've got one job out of Cardiff before, and then I've been there 4 or 5 times, and the other times it was sort of, I couldn't get anything, so I went across to Bristol. Scotland, very quiet unless you're in Glasgow or Edinburgh. You can get a fair bit out of Aberdeen. A lot of stuff goes to Aberdeen. Not a huge amount comes out of Aberdeen, but you still can get work out there. And obviously that is a long drive. But apart from that, nothing. You think most of Scotland's like a national park, same as Wales. And obviously national parks don't generally have industrial estates. So that's why you don't get much work out of them. So if you look at the country in a whole, when you're trying to figure out, is your area busy, just have a look at the cities that are near you, around you, or which you live in. If you're in a cluster of cities, of course it's going to be busy. Cities are industrial hubs. You've got to just look at the map of England and go, right, where is the industry? Because where the industry is where the work is. Because we work mainly business to business, and most businesses that transport goods are industrial industries. It's pretty simple when you break it down. So just look around the country, figure out where you are. Hopefully this little guide will sort of go, all right, well, I'm here, I'm close to that city, there's that city there, so there's going to be a bit of work. I will say this though. It's not necessarily how busy the area you're in is going to define if you're going to do well or not. It's your ability, or what van you've got for it even. It's your ability to adapt. It's your ability to build relationships, get your own customers. You only need one customer to be successful. That customer just has to be a very good fucking customer. You don't need to have thousands of jobs, because you can only run one job at a time, unless you're allowed to co-load, which is maybe 2, possibly 3, maybe even 3, very rarely. But you're only ever running one job at a time. For instance, if you could live in the deadest city or village in the country, that only has one job come out of it a day, but if you're the only person bidding on it, and you're the only person that ever wins that job, you're still going to be busy. Where I sort of think, is it busy, is where I'm going to end up. Because I don't know that area, and I don't have those customers in that area. So I hope I end up somewhere good. That's why I love getting jobs to Manchester, because I know when I get there, I'm going to get a job home. I love getting jobs to Bristol, because when I get there, I know I'm going to get home. I don't like getting jobs to London, though, because London is extremely busy, but everything goes so cheap. I don't know how to bid in that area, so I never do well out of London. Midlands, love going there. Very busy, always do well. When I end up at somewhere like Peterborough or Yeovil or Exeter, I know I'm going to have to work a little bit harder to get that work, because they're single cities, they're on their own, and there's not going to be as much work around, so I have to be on my game. But like I said, it's not necessarily where you start. I live in Norfolk, where there's very little work. I've just said that. I said Norwich is dead. And I'm not saying that because I'm here and I don't want people to move here or something like that. It's not how this game works. But I say that, but I'm still successful. Why? Because I've built those relationships and I've got those customers. If you're going to start in the industry, yes, it's great to have opportunity. Opportunity is very valuable. But if you're not doing the basics right, you're not going to get that opportunity in the first place. So just bear that in mind. So yeah, that's sort of the breakdown. The busiest place is that corridor, Manchester down to London. South Coast, a nice bit of work there. Newcastle in that area, all right. Bristol, good work out there. These single cities, Norwich, Peterborough, Exeter, you'll get work out of them, but it's not a huge amount. And if you're in the countryside, national parks, Cornwall, Norwich, very little work come out of these areas. It's not really that difficult to figure out. You can look at a map with the cities on, get A to Z with the full country on, and you can literally go, right, well, there's a big load of people who live there, probably a load of work coming out of it. You can figure it out yourself. But I hope this helps some people that are sort of going, oh, I want to join the CX, or I want to join the industry, and I want to get this van, but I don't know there's enough work in my area. You just have to look at the map and you'll be able to figure it out. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Please check out my new channel, The Big Beardy Show. I'm starting to get some more content on there. If you like sport and you like me eating dodgy stuff, you'll like the channel, because I'm basically doing sport and me eating bad food, good food. I love food. Look at me. I'm a big boy. I love my food. But yeah, and also check out the Discord if you haven't already, especially if you're looking to join the industry or you're new to the industry. Lots of people sharing ideas on there. Links down below. But as always, be safe out there. Have a great day.